Hello, I'm Roy Masters, and we're going to be talking about children. Well, of course, there's a little kid in all of us, a little kid that never grew up. And this evening, we're going to teach that little kid to grow up, because I have an opinion. I guess it's more than an opinion, and it is that if you treat your children the way your parent didn't treat you, most parents are not right. But if you learn to love your children, then the little child in you grows up. So you don't have to worry about never having had love from your parent or even looking for a parent, which we often do. Some of our roommates are the parents we never had. Sometimes we change our children into parents, and the children parent us. See? So I'm saying to you, there's no need to find your lost identity in a person. You just, if you're a parent, and most of you are, a lot of parents here this evening, if you could learn to relate to your children properly, you have a second chance. That little child in you has a chance to grow and get the love it never got. Isn't it funny? Giving love, it's better to give than receive. I think that's true of love. I found that true. I have found that I never had love when I was a kid. My mother didn't know how to love. She took care of us like a hovering vulture, you know. And I appreciated it. She did take care of us, you know, and I remember during the war, when food was short, she'd fight with the butcher and make you know, she could make my father feel guilty, she could make the butcher feel guilty and get an extra ration of meat, you know. So, anyway, I mean, I was fairly protected. I never was loved, and I don't think you ever were either. You can kid yourself that you were, if you were close to your parents, but sometimes that closeness was an unhealthy closeness. It was some kind of hovering vulture that, well, you became. In other words, you got too close to your parents, you took on their identity, and you never let you be yourself. And the only self you could be is be close to your parents, because if you got away from your parents, you felt guilty, you felt like you didn't exist, like something was wrong. So if you stayed close to your parents because that closeness which was rewarded, that need for them which was rewarded often, appeared to be love, and you might have been close, but that wasn't love. Because in my opinion, love is freedom. Letting children be true to themselves, not to be themselves, because if you let them be themselves, they're going to be a rotten self. Love is correcting children. But for that, you must be correct yourself. I think you'll agree with that. And most parents aren't correct. That's the problem with our society. I don't know, a lot of people who are very prideful people, and they have this relationship I just mentioned, this closeness, this identification with parents. You take on their identity and you become them, and you carry on the family tradition, like parent worship. You see, that's very dangerous. It happens in some foreign countries like China and Japan, I suppose. There are places where they take on the identity of their parent, and they venerate the parents into people like gods. And we tend to do that with people too. If we never had a parent that we loved, we may find a parent, somebody that we can put in the role of a parent, and we venerate them and put them on a pedestal and try to get some kind of... Isn't that right, Susan? She did that with me. It's all right. I shoved it back on herself, didn't I? See, so if you do that with people, you've got cult leaders, you've got religions, you've got the wrong relationship between man and women, because, you know, have you ever heard men call their wives mama? Okay, papa. Mama and papa. I mean, they've become the mother, they become the father. And but there's only one identity that's really suitable to us, and that's the id entity, the identity, the God identity. And bringing your children to that identity is a process of correction. But you must be correct. Otherwise, correction does not take. It takes only if the children are very resilient. About 1 out of 10 or 20, I don't know, I saw an article in the paper not long ago, can't remember the figures, excuse me. No matter how bad some circumstances are for some children, they seem to land right side up. Some of them grow up to be basket cases and criminals and thieves, and some of them manage to even get through that and come out right side up. But it's not because of the parents, it's because in spite of them. It's not because of the world, it's in spite of them. And they've usually found some adult that is good, that they can connect with, that guides them, that teaches them, that leads them. I remember looking for that when I was a kid. I began to look for people in whom certain qualities that I wanted. I didn't do that very much. I noticed myself doing it, then I stopped. Yes, now we're going to have a question here. Ready? Jump over the camera. You'll sleep again at the wheel.
When you say you looked at people for this quality, your dad didn't have this quality?
My father was dead when I was 14.
I see. Yes.
So, and I hardly knew my father.
Yeah.
My father was working, he's in the Depression, and he worked, so he was a very hard-working man. I never remember much of him, so he wasn't really much of an influence. But he wasn't a bad person, he just wasn't around. And so I guess the best thing about me is that I never took on anybody's identity. I had a strange capacity to see that whenever I started to do anything dumb like that, I saw myself doing it, and then the seeing stopped it. I remember one day, I mentioned this before, 7 years old, walking down the street, all of a sudden I was aware that I existed. You know, you wake up suddenly, walking around and dream, all of a sudden, here I am, everybody. Well, don't you reckon? Ta-da! Nobody recognizes me. And then I realized what a silly, egotistical, I didn't have the words, but I'm using those words now. What a silly, egotistical thing it was right on that spot. Here I am, expecting some person, potentate, in a limousine driving around the corner and stop. Oh, here's the king. Yeah. So, you see, I had a capacity, a consciousness at that age to recognize everything that was off. Everything that was the evolution of an ego. Now, the trouble is, a lot of people don't. A lot of people think that is them. And they get frustrated because they don't get acclaim. And then the anger and resentment separates them from, makes them even more empty, and makes them even more determined, desperate for infilling of acclaim, or someone's respect or love, of which that part of us is made of. The ego part, see what I mean? The ego part is the outside world. And we are made, the ego is made of the outside world. And also the spirit of the outside world comes in, the ego identity. But the true identity is godlike. And this identity, the ego identity, must be very carefully pruned. Remember, children, when they're small, have an ego. And you must not gloss over that. You must not inhibit the evolution of the self that is ego, because we all grow up wrong before we're right. If wrong doesn't grow, right cannot be, because we grow up to realize we're wrong, and then the changes come about. But we've got to be very careful in bringing up children that we don't encourage the wrong to be wronger than it normally would be. Then it would be like a second fall. It's bad enough that you have man is first born of nature. See, he's first the natural man, and after that he's the spiritual man. But the natural man has to grow. The ego animal man has to grow. We must be very careful how we grow this ego man. We must not make it, you must not tempt it, corrupt it, encourage it, push it, pump it up, glorify it, knock it down, challenge it to grow bigger than it should be, which we do with our children. If you have that ego in yourself, then you're going to do that with your children. You're going to weaken it with love. You're going to pump it up with love and make it think it's worth more than it really is. So that self that grows from that becomes addicted to love, 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 and then it becomes dissatisfied with it. It's all it's known. And it's more of an ego than it needs to be, because that would be a second fall. You see, when Adam, if you can imagine Adam and Eve, and a man falling from this bright nature to become the ego animal that he is, the woman-centered being that he was, then you have a nature that grows and grows to displace the other one, trailing a guilt-ridden conscience, right? All right, that's fine. We've got a fallen Adam. But we don't want another fall from there. Along comes the drug pusher, and then we got another fall from there. So then we've got corruption. We have a fallen nature, then we have a corrupt nature. Well, it's bad enough to have a fallen one, but the fallen one is very vulnerable to further corruption. So what we need to do with our children is to learn how to just guard them, guide them, guard them from corruption, from schools, from friends, from reading materials, from rock and roll, from music, from drugs, from alcohol, from feminine this and that, sex. Yes?
How do you tell your 12-year-old not to listen to music, which I can't stand to hear, and he likes it?
Well, it's not an easy question to answer, because I have not forbidden my children not to listen to rock and roll. It isn't that kind of forbiddenness. You see, the thing is, living with, bless you, you're welcome. If you live in a Roy Master's house, you're living in a happy home, and one that's full of spirit, jolly, and with the children respecting their father. So when the children respect their father, a very interesting rapport is set up. They want to please that father, and they want to please him because they love his spirit. Now, if your children don't love you, or don't love your husband, then they love the world, because then the world gets to them, because there's no love to stop that. There's no love to deflect, to distract, and to fulfill. So that to the degree that your children love the father, to the degree they love the spirit of him, and to that degree they are balanced. And therefore, they will listen to rock and roll, and may go to a friend's house and listen to some of the music, but they'll start realizing that this is ridiculous, and they may buy a few records, and you can I make my comments and see what a waste of money that is. You know, what is it? Just a lot of noise.
That's what I tell them, and that's what I tell them. What a weirdos! How can you stand?
But you see, are you right yourself? How do you say it? Where is your husband? Problem.
My husband?
No husband?
Yeah, I do have a husband. He's a very good man. He's a very good father, but he's a very quiet man. He's not strong.
Not assertive.
He's not a strong man. He's very...
So in other words, he doesn't interfere.
No.
When he should.
He doesn't interfere.
And he throws it onto you.
At all, at any time.
Now, do you resent having to take this role?
Yes, I do.
Then what? You know what your son will see? He will see your resentment.
Mm-hmm.
He will see you resentfully taking on that responsibility. Mm-hmm. He will not see love. He will see it as with a strange kind of authority to rebel against, seeing that it's woman anyway. See, what a boy needs is a father, and a father spirit. But he doesn't need a woman who hates her husband, which you do. Mm-hmm. You say he's a good man, but
yes.
But you're saying that with a little tongue in cheek, because he's not good enough. He puts the load of the discipline.
He doesn't have a presence in the home.
That is not good.
He doesn't have a presence at all. He's like a sack of potatoes. He's just, he's
What's
just...
good about that?
It's not.
You should have married a sack of potatoes.
I know. It's true. He's
Give you less trouble. You could eat them if you don't know.
But it's true. He's a good provider. He's a good father. He's a good husband. He's loyal. He's just has everything.
Yeah, but he may not be loyal. He may be addicted.
He's addicted to
you.
Well,
To
could
your
be.
approval. You know, you've got him. He's so self-satisfied. You provide, you do all the mothering, and you love him, and he's sort of content.
Yeah.
His spirit has not soared, and
But
maybe
now
you
that
should-
my son is getting older, I need his help. I need his help desperately.
you need his help. It's very important for a father to be there
But
to save the children from the mother.
from me, yes.
You
But
understand what I mean by
he
that?
doesn't know how to do it.
If you put that microphone in closest, you can eat it.
I know.
I mean, sticking it in their ear right now.
Oh, okay. He does not know how to do it. My husband does not know how to do it, and
Yeah.
what I've been trying is just nudging him. You know,
Yeah.
go talk to him, go see him. You know, go see what he's doing.
You should have brought him
Go-
here this evening.
I know he's.
Well, maybe you can get him to watch
I
the
almost
TV
turned
program.
back and went to get him, but
Oh, what a shame.
well,
because
then
this
I
would,
thought about the tape, and I thought I'll get the tape.
this would have been
later.
very nice. You see, this really highlights how important fathers are in a home, and how their absence, their sort of sack of potato-ness, you know, it throws a tremendous responsibility hatefully on the mother, on the wife. And there's a lady in the blue that wanted to.
Do you want me to stand
Yeah,
up?
no, it's all right. You,
Okay. I have the same problem, and I know a lot of women share this, and I had asked my husband to come with me tonight, and he said that he would stay home with our children so I could come here.
right.
Well, I've been gradually introducing him to some of the material because it's just too
It's
foreign to
heavy
him.
stuff.
And so I leave. I hope he doesn't see this program. My secrets are going to be out. I leave strategically placed material around the house with earmarked, you know, or bookmarks. But
So it falls open in the
Yes.
proper place.
but as women, I know that this is it's almost like something that's rampant in the family home where the men are so busy. Well, that's the excuse they use, making a living.
Yeah,
And,
that's selfishness. I hear men say to their wives and children, you think, you know, they're complaining about that he's not home enough, and he's always out, you know, in the evening making a living and doing extra things. And when you complain, he says, do you think I do this for myself? I'm doing it for you. He's lying through his rotten teeth. He's doing it for himself. See, he's pretending. He can't. He's not. He's selfish. He's ambitious. He's insecure. He may not be happy at home. He may not know how to be a right father. He's he's irritable with his wife and his kids. So he goes out and throws himself in his work and buys them all kinds of things, as if that would, you know, suffice for the love needs that they have, you know. And that could be very, very frustrating.
What I have learned, though, from listening to the radio program, I have learned how to approach him without resenting him.
Now, let's come back to this lady here, right here, next to you, because it is possible for you to take the male role. Because perhaps the male role is not the correct word. Because, you see, love is neither male nor female. Very important point. So it's okay, a woman can love where a man doesn't. And a woman, but the most dangerous thing for a woman, for a single woman, a single parent woman they call these days, the most dangerous thing is for a woman to be egotistical, to be dominating, to be unregenerate in spirit, and to have a child to make her over in her own image to worship her. Mothers do that. That's why single women want male children, because they want to have a man to worship her. And when a full-grown man is not so malleable, you can't mold. So they start with a small one, see, and they put their spirit, they put their stamp, their identity, so that the child's life would revolve around the mother. And that's not correcting the child's ego. That's not loving the child, hell out of the child. That's encouraging the hell in the child. That's putting some more ego growth. Because all ego growth, now this is horrible, frightening to say, but I got to say it. The evolution of the ego is from the woman. But the cure of that is from the man. In a proper balanced husband-wife relationship, the fallen man takes his identity from the woman. It's the mother of his identity. He's not only the mother of his, you're not only born of woman physically, but he's also born of woman egotistically. So the closeness to a woman, the man's dependency on a woman's warmth and love, losing himself in that love, he draws an identity pridefully. And this prideful identity has no authority with children, because it's not the authority of God, it's the authority of the woman. Follow that? So now if you have a prideful nature, if you're angry, for instance, if you take over the role of being the disciplinarian from a husband who's a sack of potatoes, and you do it resentfully, you're doing it with a typical woman's, you're going to love out of hate. Women have a problem, most women, in unregenerate, uncleansed, unsaved ladies, which we all are, until the salvation of the Lord. So forgive me, I must put those clauses in there. Otherwise the women live are going to be after me, and they would be after me anyway. But the salvation of the children is from the spirit of the man. The ego, the first part of the evolution of the child, it comes from the woman. And so, therefore, a woman does a certain amount of loving, and the child is bonded to the mother. If the father is bonded to the mother, we got big problems. And he's bonded because he also has love needs, see, which he has to outgrow if he's to become a man. And if his children are to become, his male children become men, and his female children become real women, he must take over the disciplining of those. He must save the children from the mother and take the burden. Don't you wish you had the burden taken off with a man? Don't you feel that naturally? Yeah, this is not any theory that I'm producing. It's just you know this because it's built into your mental genes, if you like.
It's very, very difficult right now because I'm trying to kind of get my head together a little bit and try to, since I've been listening to you, I've been meditating and trying to put myself together, but I'm not ready yet to deal with him because I've done him some damage.
You've loved him too much. You've loved him into being a sack of potatoes.
Well, no, my son is the one that I've done the damage to.
What do you mean you've pushed him?
I was very domineering,
there you
very
are.
critical.
But your husband, the way you describe your husband looks like he's dominated also. He sounds like his sack of potato-ness, as you describe.
I dominated my husband, I have, yes. Yes. And I hate that he allowed me to do that.
She hates that she allowed her to do it. So there's more hate.
That's what I wanted.
But you see, you're loving out of hate. Now, when you find that this man is impotent to do what's right by your child, and you resent that, out of that resentment comes the compulsion to be a good mother. But it's a dominating, self-righteous thing which only challenges the ego of the child to be just the opposite. And the ego evolves from the challenge, so the more you try to make him right, the less right he's going to be. Besides, if you tell him the right thing, but in the wrong way, with the wrong motive, the wrong emotions.
I do that a lot.
The right thing with the wrong emotions, it is impossible for a child to be right. Because the emotional reaction is what brings out the wrong, that you now have to correct more with more right speech, with wrong, angry emotion. That's why it's wrong in church. That's why religions, when they scream and yell at people to be right, it can only produce the animal in a straitjacket at the best. So well, anyway, half an hour went by. Can you save it for the next segment? Repeat it to yourself. Well, that was a very good session. We had a very nice session. I enjoyed myself. You enjoyed it, I hope. Thank you. I never get tired of talking about this because it's fun. It's new and fresh, and it's a word made flesh when you live it, and it's fresh every time, and you see it over again. It never gets boring. Be in our audience on Friday night. Call the foundation with the number at the end of the program, and be in our audience. We have a nice small audience tonight, but it seems like the small ones work better. You're right, Mr. Producer. The big ones get too clumsy. The meditation exercise, I haven't talked much about the meditation, but we need to understand that all of this discussion is really to talk you into being quiet and being in your center and finding that nice spirit that children recognize and love and respond to without yelling, screaming. They just co-respond with it, see what I mean? So it's really, it's a really beautiful experience. You just need to get into your center and not be subject to your thoughts and your emotions and your past and your prejudices and your culture and all the rest of it. Because too many forces are moving in you and through you to be yourself. And children see that. Tomorrow night, thanks for listening. Hello, I'm Roy Masters, and we're having a very interesting discussion about raising children and how important it is for parents to be right, to have a right spirit, a right attitude, if you like, or altitude, objective state, in which an understanding light shines, so that the children, the same spirit in the child can recognize that, and when they do, they naturally correspond with it. And if they don't have that in the home, in either parent, then they're going to respond, rebel, or be compatible with the world. And you know what the world is like. I don't have to tell you. I mean, it's scumbag city. Wall to wall. Hell. So it's very important for the family to be together, and the center of the family should be, ideally speaking, a very enlightened man, not a sack of potatoes, the kind of man that your husband, I hope he's watching. Hope Mr. Sack of Potatoes is watching. But that's very great because it's the impact of it. See, the impact of that might shake him a little bit. So we're on that track right now about the importance of the evolution of the child's ego, and so that the child has to grow up wrong before it can be right. So don't try to make to right a child, but let the child evolve from its interaction with its sniveling rivalry, whatever it is, and you just sort of watch. Just be a guardian. Just stay a safe distance, you know, and interfere only when needed, when something is beyond the child's ken or powers, being bullied by the neighbor, and or the little sister's taking advantage of the big brother, and he doesn't know how to deal with it. See? And you have to teach him to be understanding with little children. See? You just leave the child alone, for the most part, just watching him from a safe distance. Like you may want to let him go to the grocery store for the first time. You let him go, but you watch, you follow him, you know, half a mile behind, a quarter of a mile behind. You know, dodging in the trees and the houses. So he thinks he's alone. But you know the kind of thing. Giving him or her the amount of responsibility that they're able to take. You don't give them a motorcycle when they're 4, you know what I mean? Unless you want to kill them in the guise of love. So yes, we have some questions rising.
Well, I have a...
Oh no, the lady behind, excuse me. I'm sorry.
Roy, I'm just real curious about what you're saying about the ego of a child. We have a 4-year-old.
It's a delicate subject.
Oh, it's so frustrating to know when I'm being patient and when I'm spoiling by not saying something. We all run into it as a family. We all.
Are you meditating?
Frankly, off and on. I'm not.
Frankly, no.
No. I know. I hear what you say, and I buy into the whole thing. But
Listen, a lot of people love me. They love what I'm saying. I'm sure a lot of people love Jesus, and they do superficially what he says on the surface. But you see, the ego needs, like a used car salesman, needs a superficial facade of righteousness, otherwise nobody will buy from him. So where does an ugly person or a selfish person get his manners? He gets it by imitation. He doesn't get it from, he gets it from some kind of imitation by setting somebody up as an idol. Oh, that Roy Masters, that Jesus Christ, what a great guy. See? And so you set him up and you imitate him, but you don't have to change. You don't have to give up your own ego. See? You like your earthy, sensual, angry little self, right? So that's the problem. You're an imitation of the real. Like the scribes and the Pharisees of old. They loved the power, but they had all the right words. And like you could belong to a church, like a policeman has a badge. A lot of bad people, a lot of bad policemen. And the city of Los Angeles has some very nice. California policemen as a whole are high class, but most parts of America are pretty low class. All the dregs of the world are policemen, right? And if they didn't have a policeman's badge, they'd be in jail. See? So they hide behind their policeman's badge, and they get credit and honor and respectability. But you know, they're not right. And they create more problems than they solve, and that's apparent. Hiding behind a church badge or a facade of righteousness, then they pick up all the right words from Roy Masters or the Jesus Christ Club. You know? See? But that's not good enough, because children are very perceptive. They know when you're not right, and they need you to be right. And they don't want you to be, they know when you're phony right, because it's not compatible with their real right, with their real spirit that wants to be guided before it's corrupted. They have a spirit that needs their parent to be what they are yet to be. See? They need that correction. They need that love. That love that is so strong and so bold and so noble that inspires you to respect it. Now, when a child respects his father, he doesn't get his identity from his father. He is, well, look, if you love a bad person, you become bad. If you love a good person, you become good. But bad and good are spirits, aren't they? They are natures in a person. So therefore, if you see a person that's bad and you correspond and respond to that, and you respect that person who's bad, and well, the bad is inside you. It may not have come from that person, but somehow it's sitting on your doorstep. But it's more and more true with interior qualities of evolution of the soul. When it comes to seeing the goodness of a person, there's something about seeing goodness and strength and character and love, and it being the example of everything you be, and being there for you. There's something about that the love of that invites the same spirit into you. You see, because that's what we tend to relate to our Father, where we tend to relate to God the way we think of our Father. If you have a bad father, you think God is bad. See? You have problems with God. You have problems with women. You have problems with the world. You follow that? There's something, and I think half of the therapeutic effect of Roy Masters, if I may say so, and correct me, ladies, because I think you ladies would recognize it more so than the men would, because you have a need for what's in me so much more. And you know what it is, but you can't tell the men what to be for you, can you? But you see it in me without you having to tell me. That's what cures you. When you actually see that in me. It's not me, it's something in me. All of a sudden it's in you, and all of a sudden you're whole. Forget about all the psychology. Forget everything I ever said. All the words I ever said, they're just loaded with the same meaning. See? But then all the words I'm saying now are like the Father, you should teach you this, and now you're ready, now that you respect my spirit, you're ready to learn from it, and to be guided by it, and to be guided away from the world. I'm not wrong, am I? Ladies, anybody have any complaint about that? Okay. There's a person over here. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Thank you. Yeah, if you wouldn't mind, you could stand up.
We have two children, a male 14, female 16. She'll be 18, so she'll be 17.
If you would mind, if you don't mind, I would like you to refer to your children as a young lady and a young gentleman. You know, the reason why I like that is because you refer to dogs and cats as male and female. Yeah, I know, I hate when they talk, when they found a female's body on the highway, young female, not a young woman. What's wrong with that? See, some human beings have a different category. Okay, go ahead.
Okay. Well, you know, I was thinking about along that line when I talked to my daughter, but it seemed like if I tell her that she'd get carried away with it and says, okay, I'm a young lady, I could do what I want to do. But
Oh, no, 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 no. I don't think that would be the case.
okay, but anyway,
It all depends upon what, you know, who's saying that.
you were saying something about as far as watching them, be careful about the music, about the schools that they go to, and things like that. Okay, now, as long as I've been listening to you, I feel that I know almost everything about the kids, about the my young children.
Lady. Yeah.
But the answer that we get from them is that, oh,
Dad.
oh, Mom, you're overprotective. What's wrong with listening to this type of music? And, you know, I show them these things. But her being 16 years old,
Who's the boss in your home?
I'm the boss.
You have fairly good relationship with your children?
I think so.
You are meditating?
Well, now, it's interesting that you say that. I used to meditate quite often.
And now you don't?
No. But I listen to you practically every day.
Good.
No, wait. Now, if I don't listen to you on radio, I will listen to you on tape. And there was one time when you said that listening to me is like meditating.
Yeah, but for the beginners only. It puts the beginners in a framework of consciousness. Because when you hear me, I'm speaking from a consciousness. I'm not speaking from intellect. I don't rehearse these things. I'm not a studied person. I'm not a learned person. So that when you listen to me, I'm raising your level of consciousness, and it is, for you, equivalent to meditation, because here you start to grasp. But I walk away, it all collapses. So therefore, you have to be locked into me all the time, but then the value of that starts to disintegrate. You start to become a Roy Masters idolater, worshipper. And the quality, the value of my teaching begins to degenerate into that of a cult, you know, where, you know, a club. You know, I love Roy Masters, you know, I love New York, or whatever it is. So you need to have your own Roy Masters center. Meaning, I have a center, and everything is in me trying to get you to come from your center. And if you don't have that, your children will not listen to you. As nice and as refined and as superficially perfect as you are on the surface, it will not work. You lack the force. It's a force, a very definite power and energy. It has developed in me to a degree that, that when some people touch me sometimes, they just shake hands with them. And they had doubts about me, you know, they, hello, Roy Masters, and we shake hands and look at my eye, and I'd shake their hand back. And I've had people many times say, well, I've heard you on the radio, and what you're saying was great, and I had some doubts, but when I shook your hand and touched you, I felt something, and that did it. See? Now, well, it's like you're like when you talk to your kids, like you being on the radio. They hear you, but they got to feel you and touch you. See? You got to communicate that quality. It's really there. It's either there or it ain't. You either got a man or a sack of potatoes. See? Or something like that. I don't mean to be overdoing that. But there's a lady back there first. Okay, go ahead. You just talk to me. And
I've heard you communicate with adults, and you call them particular names so that they'll be aware of the type of person they really are. When it comes to children, where do you draw the line? When is it appropriate to call a child like, you dum-dum, you stupid, you whore, you punk? And what type of, you know, I've heard that quite a bit. You're not worth a dime, you're not worth
No, you never want to do that with children.
I mean, you know.
You never want to do that with children.
to, no matter how old they are.
I don't do it to the nice people. I don't do it to, you never hear me talk that way to people who are searching, to my own kind. But I talk about that way, I talk about, I use those words when I'm talking about the world, scumbags, pig dogs, you know, degenerates. Well, you know who we're talking about, and that's simply the truth about them. Now, once in a while, one of those scumbag pig dogs listen to my program, and I'm saying, now, you see, this is the world, and this is the way they are, and I don't want you to become like that, see? And what you see is what they are. They're really that way. I don't know how they got that way is beside the point. Their parents called them pig dogs, scumbags, you know, idiots, whatever. However, the point is they are that way, and when you look at them, they're going to try to make you think that there's something wrong with you seeing them that way. See? The truth of it, I'm calling it like it is. People have become animals and degenerates. This is what they are. And don't let them, see the world for what it is. That's the name of what you're looking at. But once in a while, I've had people, or one man in particular, I remember, he's listening to me in a hotel in Honolulu, and he was shacking up with some lady, pardon the vernacular, and he was drunk, kind of drunk. And the radio suddenly went on, or turned the radio on. And here's me, he said, that's me. See, he's talking about me. I was explaining how these people think and how they function. He said, that's me. You know, and he needed that, because he had this woman telling him how wonderful he was and rolling him for money. The trouble is, everybody in this other world, in this world you live in, you have friends, or what you think of as friends, who extol the virtues of vice. That everything that's wrong with you is loved and worshipped and condoned. So it's very hard for you to see, and then you become worse. The worse you become, the more conflict you got. How do you get rid of the conflict? Well, you find more people who love you for your vices, who glorify your failures. See? So there comes a time when a man like me is heard by a man like him, and he hears me calling him just what he is. And he felt such a relief, because it was the truth at last, because everybody else was saying how wonderful the pig was. I said, face it, you're a pig. Face it. It's not meant to put you down. I can say it, you're a pig. You'll never be anything else. That's to make you a pig. There's a way of making a person into a degenerate. But there's also a way of saying, you know, you're a pig. And you better look at that. See? You're a degenerate. And look at the bad example you're setting for your children. Now, that's not putting someone down. That's calling it like it is.
But only certain people can say that.
Only certain people like myself can say it and get away with it.
Yeah.
But I haven't needed...
You can call me that, and I'll say, fine, that's true. But if anybody else that I don't trust or don't like says that to me, I just, you know,
That's
flip.
right. Especially, it depends on who says it.
Yeah.
That's right. For instance, my son the other night put some monies into futures. He slipped that. Normally he runs things by me. He bounces things off of me. But his ego got caught up with another friend of his who made some money on the stock market. So he starts to buy, not a great amount of money, but I found this out. I called him up. I said, listen, that's stupid. He said, well, Dad, I just had to try it myself. I said, why do you always have to learn your lessons hindsight? Why can't you? Are you so eager? I know why you did it. You wanted to show how clever you were. You wanted to try this without even talking to your father about it. But your father is 60 years old, and I could keep you out of trouble. The very fact that you didn't want to talk to me about it was egotistical. You knew it was wrong deep down inside your mind, but your ego said, but I can make a lot of money on this. So you're going to lose a lot of money on this one, see? And I called him stupid. I said, that's absolutely stupid. He called back and says, yeah, you're right, Dad. I know why I did that. He said, I feel the pain of it now. I said, I didn't rub it in as long as he could see it, see? He didn't lose that much, but he could lose a lot, see?
But I got to tell you something about David. One time we came to hear him, my neighbor and I brought her for the first time. She had never heard you or your son before.
David Masters?
Yes, he was here to give a talk about career or what was opportunities or... So we listened, and my friend, we didn't have dinner, so we figured we'd listen and then go and have dinner. Well, she started to get real hungry, and she kept nudging me, let's go, let's go. Finally, I gave in. I said, fine, we can leave now. So I said, David, excuse me, but we have to leave now because my friend hasn't eaten dinner yet, so we're gonna go get a bite to eat. And he says, well, your friend doesn't look like she needs a bite to eat. She was overweight. And that girl, I swear, she just hates you and hates David now and hates. And I felt like telling her, look, Adrian, you are heavy.
That's the kind of thing
so
I would do.
You know, you are heavy, so why, you know, what's the big deal? You know?
But David did the right thing.
And I felt, you know, like...
See, David did the right thing because he's probably said it in a light-hearted way.
He did, yeah.
But you see, her ego couldn't stand the truth of that. She's fat, right? And if she has a good spirit, if she had a receptive spirit, she would have taken that, and she would have felt the shock. She would have seen that resentment rising. She would have seen it. She would have been shocked into a state of consciousness. See? Because I mean, part of her had liked it, the truthfulness of it, the love that was there, the boldness of it, and the love that was behind it. And part of her would hate it. But then, both rising at the same time, the love, the good part would have seen the angry part. So why I'm angry with this man? He's just told me the truth. And she would have been over it. She would have been over the fact that people have prodded her all her life about eating too much and, you know, making...
She just given up smoking. She quit smoking for a whole year, and she got a little heavy. But now she lost the weight too, so she's doing all right. But I felt like I didn't know at the time whether he was right or wrong in saying that to her.
No, he was right.
But if it was me, I would have said, yeah, I know, and I would have laughed about it.
But that's the kind of thing David does very much like I do. I would say, you know, like I said to these ladies at the front, I said, what happened to your head? You didn't take that too serious, did you? It was a little painful, wasn't it? Because it was a silly-looking hairdo, you have to admit. Now look, that's good-natured, isn't it? I mean, somebody talked you into that, right? Some kind of fashion. It's hard. You don't know how to take this, do you, really? It's a little bit hard. But, huh? Yeah, but you're not taking offense, are you? No. It is silly looking here. Getting to you yet? Well, the good nature, the kids. These kids here searching, they wouldn't be here. And what they need is someone to love them and to show them, you know, to get them to look at themselves. Otherwise, they look at themselves in the light of their friends who made them that way, so therefore they always look all right. In hell, everybody looks all right. you see, you can no contrast to beauty, you see what I mean? So see, these kids are going to be all right. They're probably in a few weeks they'll get back to normal. That's what you're here for. They wouldn't be here for if they didn't love what I was saying. They need that. Some people like it. So that's how you find the ones that are worth saving. You don't, in other words, you don't hold back, because some people would appreciate. Some people appreciate what you said to them. The courage, the boldness, the good-naturedness of it. There was something different that made them examine their reactions, you see, and to rise above it. But other people, they'll hate you, you know, because you're not tactful and you're rude, and because they expect everybody not to see you. They have these fat pigs that expect you not to see it, but then they're not fat.
Yeah, but the others may be very vulnerable at that moment, and they may get so hurt that they close up totally.
Well, the point is, if they're going to close up, they're going to close up anyway. And if they're going to open up, they're going to open up. Never be afraid. You lose some and you get some, but it is the boldness and the love of it that is the power. It's one person falls one side, it's like a meat cleaver. One group falls one way and you're never going to get them back. Maybe a year later they'll come back and say, you know what, he was right.
But maybe if you had not been so shocking at that moment, they wouldn't have waited a whole year to come around.
No, you see, then you can conjecture all you want about that. I have discovered in my life that straightforward, honest, boldness, love, not done with a put-down way, forces some people to look at themselves. It makes people look at themselves.
You also, when you commented to the girls when you first walked in, you said, after you said that about their hair, you said, just kidding.
Yeah,
you lightened
I lightened it, but I was kidding.
Mm-hmm.
It was, but it's still the truth. It's still
still the
light.
truth, yeah.
See, I'm just taking some of the edge off. Just take a little of the edge off. You just saw the good-naturedness of it, didn't you?
I agree.
See? And it sets up a little conflict in there, a funny feeling, and then you're going to have to do something with it. Then you look at me, and I'm not judging you, and your consciousness is raised. It's just, you start to see your own reactions. Got that? So, it gives you a chance to reflect. But otherwise, everybody likes you the way you are, or everybody makes you the way you are. See what I mean? The two mean forces, the one that love you the way you are, and then you always feel comfortable, no matter how fat you are. You don't notice your own fat when you're around those people, and you're comfortable when you're around those scumbags, pardon the expression. You know, the people who never disturb you. They never disturb you because they want something from you, you know. Anyway, we got away from kids, didn't we? But not really. We're coming back to kids tomorrow night or in the next session. Be in our audience on Friday evenings. Call the Foundation for reservations. We have a very nice, small, delightful audience this evening. And my program in Los Angeles can be heard on 9 o'clock here on KIEV, Monday through Friday, 870 on the dial. So you can join us on radio for a call-in show, and we'll carry on there. But we have a problem keeping this program on the air in the evening. This is an experimental group, and if I can get enough people to support me like I do on the radio, then I can have a show every evening like this. And we can get into some heavy stuff. And there's lots more where this comes from. So tell a friend. If you want to lose all your friends, don't tell them all at once. Just lose one at a time. Okay. The meditation, I was talking to that gentleman. You're laughing so much. You tell him about the meditation. Thank you very much. The announcer will give you, the meditation is very important to learn to come from the right place, and then we'll talk about that tomorrow evening. Thanks for listening, and join us again.
The Foundation of Human Understanding teaches an observation exercise, often called meditation, which permits you to become objective toward your problems and allows your heartaches, bad habits, fears, and anxieties to be completely eliminated from your life without effort on your part. Until you have begun to practice this exercise, much of what you see and hear on the following program may be shocking and upsetting to you. But if you will listen calmly and with an open mind, you may discover the key to the peace of mind and joy for which you've been searching all of your life. And now, from the Foundation of Human Understanding, here is Roy Masters.
Hello, I'm Roy Masters, and we're having a jolly good time here talking about raising children. And we've come up with some very interesting concepts, and this is the continuation of last night's or the last segment. These are the same people. These are half-hour increments. I hope you'll keep with us every night, Monday through Friday. Now, we have a question here from a lady to get things going, which if my people here on the ball can put that microphone in your ear, on your mouth. Now you're ready?
Well, I have a question. How can one mother raise two kids and be completely opposite of each other?
Well, that's because the mother raised them, and not the father.
Well, that's true.
Now, I have
point there, but still,
I have
how can
5
they be
kids.
so different?
I will tell you. I will tell you. I have 5 kids. They're all different, but no rebels.
Oh, I have
No conformists. They're all different like snowflakes are different. They're all snowflakes, but they all have different little designs, different talents, different aptitudes. But none of them are conformists. There's no mama's boys or papa's boys. They're all unique as God created them, and becoming more unique all the time. No problem. No rebels, no conformists. Now, that's the problem. In a home, there are 3 main types that you can get when the woman is in charge. The spirit of the woman, whether it's the spirit of the woman in the man, unmanly man, brutal man, wimpy man. You know, because sometimes men can play the woman's role. he spoils them and she tries to save them, discipline them. And not able to do it because he's too busy playing the woman spoiling role. So, when you have the woman's spirit in charge, you have two extremes of reaction. One rebels and one conforms. One's the apple polisher, sweet, nice, does good at school. The other one smokes pot, doesn't appreciate anything. Rebels. What are you laughing at?
I have a twin.
They're both opposites? See?
I have a twin.
You have a twin.
The other guy.
I
The
see.
apple polisher.
You're the apple polisher, all right. Glad you recognize yourself. Now, the third one is the survivor. The third one is neither one of those two. Sometimes you get one like that. If you have 3 kids, you have one rebel, one conformist, and one gentleman or lady who is naturally gracious and grows and appreciates and somehow survives you. You know?
Well, that's my daughter. She's like that.
Which one? She's
Not a conformist, but she's very gracious.
No, she survived you.
Yes.
Now, what are you going to do with the one that didn't?
Well, the other one
But it's no credit to you.
is going to survive.
The one that survives you is not any credit to you because if you're...
I don't think that I'm a credit to neither one.
You do understand that, don't you?
Yes. It's something within them.
I know now. How old is the one that rebels?
17, just turned 17.
And no father.
No. The father is a tyrant.
See, that's the problem. And you, are you a tyrant?
No.
Are
But
you?
I try to be very willful to have him grow up the right way. And
You
so
talk about the
I-
rebel. The
of
rebel's a
course,
male.
and I
The rebel's a male child.
Rebel is a male child.
Yeah, well, naturally, and the conformist is a female child.
I don't know if she's a conformist, but she's nice.
Yeah, but the trouble is the girl the older
A lot
one?
of common sense.
Is the girl the older one?
Yes.
Yeah, that's the problem. 2 women in
5
the
years
house.
difference.
2 women.
Yeah,
One's enough. 2 is too many.
that's true.
He's rebelling.
That is true.
She's, your daughter's going to also lay it on him too. Try to mother him and tell him what to do. And
No, you can. He's not the kid that loves mothering. He's
no, but pressure. Your daughter's going to be willful. The women have a natural willful streak.
So is he. He's extremely willful.
He's willful. He's willing back. He got his willfulness by challenge, by reacting and rebelling against the woman. He's taken on the ego of the female. I didn't say that very well, but you understand it.
That's exactly what my son.
Is that right?
Yes.
In other words, what's in him is in you.
Yes.
You and it's
Worse.
in him.
Worse.
See, it's evolving. The more you push him, the stronger he gets
Yes.
in his rebelliousness, right?
Yes.
And they both grew up on Little House in the Prairie and Waltons, and it was just wonderful.
So it should have had an effect, right?
Yes. Yes. I mean, he's not on drugs and on drinks or anything like that, but he's very rebellious and wants things his way, wants to party and doesn't care about school. School is a lot of pressure for him, does not care to study. And when he was younger, I used to push him, but now you can't push him. He's 17 and he's going to get back.
That's exactly right. Go ahead.
She has, I have the same family situation, almost the same space and age.
Oh, thank you. I'm glad
I
I'm
have
not the only one.
a daughter, but my children are younger, so I'm here to learn.
So that doesn't happen.
Well, I'll tell you what my son.
What are you learning?
I'm learning from one thing, and my son, he started to be the rebel.
How old?
11. And we would have these meaningful conversations about morals and righteous living, and I realized one thing, because it seemed like everything was going good. Oh, he'd not in agreement. He was like conformist rebel. And then he'd go out and he would just be terrible. And I knew that he was bothered by something. From listening to you, I knew that something was bothering him, and it was probably me. And I finally realized that while I was talking to him, there was so many emotions involved. One, I was fearful because his father wasn't active in the family life, that he was going to have some serious problems. I was ambitious, trying to get him to be a good
Lady's
kid.
been doing a little introspection, hasn't she?
And I could feel that ambition because way in the back of the corner of my mind,